This is going to be special. I've never seen the treasures I've been promised down here before. This is Baiae's Lost Harbour, where the notorious Caligula is said to have reacted to a prophecy that he would never be emperor until he rode on horseback across the water of the bay by tethering 4,000 ships together from this harbour wall and trotting across. That was my first sighting of the Portus Julius. What's magic is that you can follow the grand monumentality of the lines, the solid masonry that's still there, straight out to sea and then across the bay. You can imagine that those walls doing a pretty good job of protecting the fleet. Now I want to experience the posh villas, and as these watery gems have sunk even deeper beneath the waves, I'll need to scuba dive for this.
This is absolutely incredible. I could do with a little champagne, I think, at this moment in time. So we're in one of the rooms of one of those posh fancy villa owners, and I am currently in the process of uncovering this gentleman's mosaic floor. If only this mosaic could talk.
The mosaic floor isn't the only treat. The statues in this Roman villa are now faithful replicas so that enthusiasts can still share the magic of this lost world.
There was a wonderful story that in this dining room there was a channel of seawater that the plates of exotic food floated on around the diners. It was the Yosushi moving belt of the ancient world. So there's a wonderful irony that now this is itself underwater, and the fish that once graced the tables now rule supreme down here. I absolutely love it. This is the first time that I've been able to see this underwater world. Lost in time, wrapped in silence, as the sea levels have risen and the earth has fallen.
What a great place to experience.
10,000 years ago, there was no Isle of Wight. It was part of the English mainland to the north and still joined to northern Europe and France to the south. And all of that out there, the Solent, was dry land. Which should mean out there underneath the water are the relics of a lost world and of the people who lived on it. It's a world that's being explored by archaeologist Gary Mumber. And I'm going to join him. I'm about to go back to a time when rising sea levels were turning land into tidal marsh, when Britain was an island in the making. The site is 8,000 years old, a time archaeologists call the Mesolithic, or Middle Stone Age.
It's really opening a picture of Mesolithic period that we're not getting from sites on land. So when sea level was lower, further back in time, and we're finding the well-preserved remains.
So it's actually the sea that's going to make it awkward for us, is what has preserved what we're going to see.
If it wasn't for the sea, it wouldn't be there.
We're doing a final diver check. Everything okay? Divers ready for the water.
Once, this was home to a coastal community of hunter-gatherers, living a way of life that had barely changed for thousands of years.
What we're actually finding the most amazing of all is the fact that we're out there by 30 feet underwater, where people once walked. Yes, when people walked and lived and perhaps stayed for a while. These big bits of timber here, they are all burnt. That big bit is possibly part of an old logboat. Unbelievable. This has been eroding and going to breeze to the surface. If we don't lift it, it'll be lost.
What's been discovered here is more than an ancient hunting camp. It's the oldest boat-building yard in the world. And it contains fragile evidence of the sophistication of the people who once lived here.
That's fantastic.
It was. I can stay down there for hours when it's like that.
So this piece of timber is how old?
Well,
How long is it since it was worked?
It's over 8,000 years old. It has come up in association with other bits and pieces, and one piece of timber in particular, which we believe may be part of a logboat. See those grooves?
Uh-huh.
How clearly defined they are?
So that's woodworking, that's not natural erosion.
No, that's woodworking.
That's obviously part of something with the grooves either side. So someone
We'll get more
8,000 years ago
evidence.
was working with a stone tool to create these grooves. You don't, as a general rule, you just don't see organic material coming out of Mesolithic sites. You get the stone tools, but to see what those stone tools were being used for, it's the other half of the equation.
It's pretty unique and very special.
I'm in Gibraltar, a naval stronghold for centuries, and new evidence from these rocky shores suggests that thousands of years after they disappeared from the rest of Europe, the Neanderthals were clinging on here. When Neanderthals lived here, sea levels were up to 100 metres lower, so much of the evidence from that time could be underwater.
Go forward now.
A team of specialists is probing the ocean floor, looking for traces of the Gibraltar Neanderthals. We've come to a stop now because we are over the archaeological site. It's about 20 metres below the surface of the sea below us. Divers are all getting ready, and these are divers but also archaeologists, so they're going to be excavating the sea bottom in search of Neanderthals. These divers are up against poor visibility with a limited oxygen supply. Underwater archaeology is always challenging. But Clive Finlayson has already made a series of significant discoveries in the sea caves nearby.
This is where the last Neanderthals made their last stand, if you like, 24,000 years ago. We get the feeling it was the nearest thing to Neanderthal city you're going to find anywhere. We've got fossils, stone tools, animals that have been butchering, all kinds of evidence, hearths, Neanderthal barbecues, if you like. It's a very, very special site.
They think that Neanderthals may have held on here long after they'd been wiped out in the rest of Europe. But after the Neanderthals finally disappeared from Gibraltar, there was a gap of 5,000 years before we turned up. So it looks as though whatever finally killed Neanderthals off, it wasn't us. What do you think eventually wiped them out?
It may have been a numbers game. There's so few left, as would happen to populations of endangered species today, like the panda or tiger. Just random fluctuations in numbers can bring it down to zero, and there's no recovery from zero. So it could have been that. It could have been disease, inbreeding, a whole range of factors that can affect a small population and knock them over the edge.
find it very moving to think that one day the last Neanderthal might have been sitting here, staring out to sea, and perhaps waiting for their companions to return. Or maybe he or she knew that they were the last of their tribe or their family, but they can't have known that they were the last of their entire species. So that was the end of the Neanderthals. Or was it? Some scientists believe their descendants are still walking around today. If our ancestors interbred with them, some of us could be part Neanderthal.
12 BCE, they begin construction on a remarkable feat of engineering. The first of a series of aqueducts. These grand structures shift thousands of liters of water over huge distances. Their water channels are designed with a steady and carefully calculated gradient to keep the water flowing.
It's millimetrically precise. A grade more than 1 in 4,800 was going to cause significant erosion and therefore significant manpower to repair.
Over the next 5 centuries, the Romans build 11 aqueducts. They stretch almost 500 kilometers and provide Rome with millions of liters of water every day. A lifeline for this expanding empire.
The ability to supply water to the capital city of Rome and to all of the important cities around the empire was absolutely fundamental to the population growth and to the success of the Roman civilization. Without that, they would certainly have shriveled and died, or simply not grown.
Rome's aqueducts are a wonder of the ancient world. Proof of Rome's mastery over nature. But this is just the beginning. These luxurious baths are a spectacular temple to the Roman love of water.
The emperor put on this enormous expense and this enormous display in order to give his citizens a place to be Romans in the fullest sense of the term. Huge forests of columns of all different kinds of granite, all different kinds of marble, a pantheon of gods and heroes in the niches.
This vast site is equipped with a huge spa complex, 2 gymnasiums, a swimming pool, and rooms ranging from cold to hot.
A couple thousand years ago, we would have been surrounded by naked Romans. The splashing of water, the voices echoing off the arches, the smells, the perfumes. This is a place where you could come and simply get away from the world.
These palaces of water are the hub of Rome's cultural life.
This place was not merely a place to get clean, but a place to do business deals, a place to have banquets and sing merry songs with your friends, a place to work out. It was the society of Rome, all collected in one room.
Here, senators and paupers, men and women, all bathe equally.
One of the oddest features of the British Iron Age is how many of the finest pieces of Celtic art and weaponry come from wet places. They come from rivers, bogs, lakes. And this is a constant pattern, not just found in Britain, but across the whole of Northern Europe at this time. These objects are extremely rare, and it's the equivalent, perhaps, of placing a Ferrari or a Rolls Royce in the water and just letting it rust.
The Witham Valley has its fair share of Iron Age Rolls Royces, and the most impressive find of all was made in 1826, near Fiskerton. The Witham Shield, now one of the treasures of the British Museum. This was never meant to be carried into battle. It's a work of art with delicate inlays of imported red coral and intricately raised decoration. The style can be recognised across Iron Age Europe, evidence of a vast network of contact and trade. At first glance, some of the offerings found at the Fiskerton Causeway may not appear as impressive, but these iron tools are remarkable in different ways. Metallurgist Vanessa Fell has discovered that the striking surfaces of some of the hammers were made of specially hardened steel. The earliest steel found in Britain, some 500 years before the Romans. She's invited ironworker Hector Cole to take a look.
Everything about this says that these belonged to people who knew exactly what they were doing with them.
Yes.
And they were choosing the best materials throughout for the whole job. It's this little one here which is a beauty, isn't it? Look at it. It's so delicate, but it looks as though it's just made to do its job. And it's obvious from this end, this little domed end, that it was a doming hammer to make a little dimple into a piece of sheet metal so that you could raise it like this centre here, I would think, wouldn't you?
The centre of this boss.
Yes. And the same with this one. This is a beauty, isn't it? I have hammers like this in my workshop. Yes. Not quite in this condition, but look at the end of that one.
Back in his forge, Hector is going to replicate the hardening process used by Iron Age metalworkers. The steel is the same composition as the original, but the secret lies in the quenching, at exactly the right time and temperature.
When you heat the metal up, there's a chemical change takes place in the metal at certain temperatures. And at a particular temperature, the chemical change makes the metal hard. And what I did when I put it in the water was to actually freeze that chemical change so that the surface of the metal is hard. And they would have done exactly the same. They knew what they were doing. That's the exciting bit. And straight away you can tell just by the noise that that is a hard surface. All it's doing is just burnishing the surface and making it shiny. So we have a hammer with a hard face that will stand up to any sort of work that I subject it to. Just what that craftsman in that early Iron Age was looking for. He could work with this hammer.
So how did it end up in a bog? Many archaeologists, like Francis Pryor, have come to believe that these tools and weapons were not simply lost. They were deliberately left in these special places as offerings to the gods.
As we examine the precise circumstances of each weapon that we found, we realise that it was a very carefully constructed religious act. And this is how I think they did it. It was a very private ceremony. You didn't rush it. You try not to fall over. And you walk along the line of posts, and you come up to one side of the posts. And remember, what you're offering to the water was probably your grandfather's prized possession. It probably even carried his name. So when you offered it to the water and to the spirits of the ancestors, you did it with enormous reverence. So I want to get that feeling. I don't like doing this lightly. It's a very powerful thing to do. So there it lies. Now, that's a very small-scale action. The sword isn't being hurled into the water, and we've got plenty of evidence for that. We once found a dagger which had its blade placed in the water, and then its handle was actually lying on top of the blade. It was touching it. Now, that can only be done with that sort of action. You don't hurl a dagger and a handle and have them land in the same spot in the water.